And who am I? That's not a secret I'll never tell. You know you love me. XOXO. Gossip Girl.
What's up? We got Gossip Girl, Season 4, Episode 22, The Wrong Goodbye, the season finale. This episode starts off with Serena and Vanessa on their way to the conference party to find Charlie. Serena tries to say that Charlie's behavior is because of she's off her meds. This is not all her fault. This is because she's off her meds. But Vanessa says she doesn't believe that. They begin to argue, and eventually Serena says they should just tell Dan together and find Charlie together. At the party, Dan realizes there's something wrong with Nate, but he refuses to talk about it. Instead, he points out that Dan looks shaken up, and Dan admits that Charlie asked him to call her Serena while they were kissing. Nate is surprised, but Dan is distracted when he sees Chuck arrive, as he thought he was going to rehab. Nate promises to explain everything later, and elsewhere Chuck approaches Eleanor to ask him where Blair is. Eleanor says she must be there somewhere, but advises Chuck to let Blair go to ensure her happiness. Meanwhile, Dan asks Eric if he's seen Charlie, when suddenly Serena, Vanessa, and Chuck Nate approach, all trying to talk to each other. Chuck asks about Blair, but Dan doesn't know where she is. Vanessa and Serena are looking for Charlie, and Dan admits that she's acting strangely. Eric brings Cotty and Liz over, and they explain they saw Charlie run somewhere, and Chuck decides to go to the Empire in case Blair is there. Nate goes with them, and he reveals that he told Raina about what her father did, and Chuck is furious, explaining that there will be repercussions. However, he's more interested in finding Blair. When they arrive at the hotel, Raina emerges and apologizes for her behavior towards Chuck. She asks if she's seen Blair, but she hasn't. Elsewhere, Russell takes Blair to Chuck's new hotel site and traps her in a room. But she manages to secretly call Chuck so he can hear what's going on. And she asks why Russell's doing this, and he explains that there's one thing Chuck loves. She is the one thing Chuck loves most in the world, and he keeps flickering a lighter. Back at Constance, Georgina is revealed to be here, also in 10, with her new husband, Philip. She admits that she married him to secure Milo's future and live in his law. And he only married her to have her as a trophy wife. So, yeah, Georgina's back, and she married a new guy. She walks away and runs into Dan, who sees she's on a mission. She begs to be included, but Dan's like, yeah, that's happening, and walks off. Meanwhile, Eric calls Lily about the party. Rufus asks if Charlie's been found yet, but Lily isn't worried. Lily, this is your cousin. This is your sister's daughter. You are worried if your sister's daughter might be in danger. What is the matter with you? Your sister's daughter might be in trouble, or might be dangerous, or might even be suicidal, and you don't care. Wow, Lily's awful. Yeah, and just after Lily isn't worried and just asks Eric to get Serena to call her. Meanwhile, Dan discovers Charlie drunkenly dancing and pulls her away. Charlie's going with him, but Dan apologizes for overreacting earlier and he suggests they go. However, Serena criticizes him for leading her on and pushes another guest over so she can run away. Vanessa arrives and suggests they have a new plan. Unbeknownst to them, Georgina watched the whole conversation. However, Serena is looking at photos when John Maxwell, head Mrs. Queller, approached her and introduces her to the author of the Gossip Girl books. Yes, the author of the Gossip Girl book series is in this episode. And not only did I bring out this Gossip Girl book series book one photo just to tell you that Celia von Vigergazer or whatever her name is in this episode. But Ted Queller, for some reason, knows this woman. Don't know how she knows her. She just does. or they just brought in the author of their source material for a cameo. So yeah, she even asks Serena. She even says Serena doesn't know her, but she knows Serena. Basically alluding to how she created Serena. Basically how she's the reason Serena exists. She adds that she's slightly disappointed Serena decided to go to Colombia, as she wanted her to get away from New York. When she's gone, Serena is approached by some young girls. Yeah. Basically, Minnie Blair and Minnie Serena are back, who approached Serena, who talked to Chuck. And they talked to Chuck, and they asked Serena who she showed dinner Nate. Get out of the scene, girls. Why, again, as I said, why do these young girls come up and think they can criticize Serena? Right after Georgina arrives and asks to be let in on whatever's going on. Serena says, like that's happening, but Dan and Vanessa arrive explaining that they lost Charlie again. They'll receive a text from Charlie saying, "I'm sorry, goodbye," basically meaning that she's going to off herself. So they decided to split to look for her, but refused to involve Georgina in any way. Later, Georgina walks past Charlie, who's overheard the conversation. Back at Chuck's building site, Blair asks why Russell keeps flickering his lighter. He explains that things are taking longer than expected. Chuck, Ray, and Nate arrive and run up to find Blair. Nate pauses to call 911 after smelling gas. And after they arrive, they hear Blair trying to placate Russell by saying that she managed to find a way out of hating Chuck and the Basses so he can too. Russell's not convinced and again begins to flicker his lighter, but Chuck bursts in with Raina. Raina says that she forgives Russell for the fire, saying it was an accident, but when he hands over the lighter, she announces that he's going to jail, and she will never visit him. Later, Nate and Raina go give their statements. Blair explains that she needs to go find Louis, and Chuck offers to drive her. Blair thanks him, and she explains that she called him because she couldn't see to dial 911. He was still in her speed dial. Chuck apologizes for his behavior, and she says they have a drink to calm Blair's nerves. She agrees. Meanwhile, Raina tells Nate that she wants to go home to Chicago, and they part ways, and basically Raina exits the show forever. Yeah, basically this is how they can get Raina out of the show. Instead of having one drink, Chuck and Blair crash at Bar Mitzvah, begin to dance, and have fun together. Meanwhile, at Constance, Georgina finds Charlie, who's looking for an open window to get some air. Georgina tells her it's the top floor. Right after Serena arrives, and after some prodding, Georgina tells her where Charlie went. At the loft, Vanessa goes to find Charlie, but instead finds a manuscript of Dan's novel inside. Back at Constance, Louis is waiting for Blair and tells him that Sophie tells him that Blair isn't coming. He insists she is, and back at the bar mitzvah, Blair pulls Chuck into another room, and they start kissing and sleeping together. Yeah, Blair's basically cheating on Louis here. Serena arrives in a room on the Constance top floor and discovers Charlie standing in an open window. She begs her not to jump, but Charlie tells her that she knows everything and she knows everyone thinks she's crazy. Serena says that Charlie cannot be helped and offers to get Dan, but she says that he isn't like her. She says she'll never be like Serena, but Serena replies that it isn't great being her. Meanwhile, Dan calls Vanessa to find out if she's found Charlie. He says she hasn't, but she read inside. Dan becomes furious, saying that she went through his belongings. Vanessa is impressed with the book and says that she never realized Dan actually wanted to be a part of the Upper East Side group. Dan says he can never publish the book as he would be an outsider forever, but Vanessa tells him not to care about who he hurts or what people think of him. Dan reminds her that these people are now his friends and family, but Vanessa tells him to man up and publish it. Dan hears from Serena, and basically he also tells her that, after the call, Vanessa says that 4 years ago she entered his chimney, but Dan tells her that his life ended when she came into his life. So yeah, when she re-enters his life in season 1, episode 6, that's when she basically destroyed his life when she re-entered it. Wow, wow, he's basically roasting her. He's like, yeah, in season 1, episode 6, when she first made her first appearance, that's basically when his life ended. So, yeah, after basically chewing Vanessa out and saying that, yeah, they'll never recover, basically their friendship is over forever, he gets a call from Serena. Dan hears from Serena that Charlie's been found and ends his conversation with Vanessa, telling her to put the book back and get out of his room. They end to call on bad terms, but Vanessa steals Dan's manuscript as she leaves. Chuck heads to the party, and Blair admits that she will have to tell Louis that it's over. Chuck says if she still loves Louis, Blair says she does, but it's not like she loves Chuck. She explains that with Louis, her love is lighter, more simple, and makes her happy. But with Chuck, it's intense and all-consuming. She expects Louis will have left by now, as she was so long. Chuck tells her to drop him off at the Constance party, and takes the limo to consolidate. While they get to Constance, Chuck is surprised to find Louis still waiting there. Louis tells her that he believes in Blair, and she knows she'll figure it out and arrive. Blair at that moment appears as Chuck left his jacket. He turns to Louis and says they need to talk. Chuck interrupts and says that the pair have his blessing, and he is pleased they're getting married. Right after, Blair finds Chuck and asks him why he did that. They talk, and he admits that he only wants her to be happy, and if Louis gives her that, that's good enough for him. They tell each other they will always love each other, and she leaves with Louis. Back upstairs, Charlie tells everyone that she wants to be like says that everyone wants to be like Serena, and she can do everything she wants. Serena reveals that she never made any of her choices for her, and all her actions were about making other people happy, but only succeeded in hurting them. Charlie asks if she could choose between Dan and Nate. Again, what would she choose? And Serena calls them to ask them to meet her there. When they arrive, she apologizes for leading them on and not making a choice. They forgive her and thank her for an apology. Charlie also apologizes for everything she did, and Dan decides to take her home. Downstairs, she steps aside to call Carol, but when she does so, she tells the person that things went perfectly. Georgina approaches and informs Charlie that she knows that she was never on medication, and gives her phone number to call her if she's ever around again. 3 weeks later, Rufus reads that Russell will be in prison for the next 20 years. Blair is preparing to spend the summer with Monica with Louis in a civil when she says goodbye to Chuck. She and Dan agreed to link their queues on Netflix so they can still watch movies together. Charlie emerges from her room with all her things packed and explains that she's ready to go home to Florida by bus to think. She and Serena hug hug goodbye, and she says goodbye to Dan. At the Empire, Nate and Chuck talk about their recent events. Chuck admits that he wants Blair to shine, and she does when she's with Louis. Nate is surprised at his maturity and suggests they have a lost summer together. They split and go and pick their point. At the Waldorf, Blair and Serena are finishing packing their trip. Serena explains to Blair that she's going to California to be with Cece to find herself by being alone, and she made a choice for herself. At the Vanderwoodsons, Dan announces that he wants to head to the Hamptons and invites Eric to come. He asks if he has something to do with missing Charlie, but Nate says isn't Charlie he's missing. Rufus suggests Dan do some writing and admits that his writing days are behind him. Meanwhile, Vanessa meets with a publisher who is very impressed with Inside. He asks who the author is, and she can't reveal, but she says to send the checks to her, and she'll pass it to the author. And yeah, that's the last we see of Vanessa. Vanessa is not in the next season, and that's it for her character. I feel like they could have done more with Vanessa, but apparently they didn't have any storylines for her doing more, so they were like, okay, for her final scene of the entire series, we're going to have her secretly sell Dan's book. So yeah, Vanessa's now gone from the show. So next season we will not have Vanessa or Jenny. They'll get mentions, but they won't be full characters. Bye, Vanessa. You had 4 seasons to yourself, and you were very good. You were a very good written character, and I liked you. But I'm sad to see you go. When she hands over the address, she explains that she's moving to Barcelona because nothing's keeping her in New York anymore. In California, Serena runs into a guy reading her favorite book, Beautiful and the Damned. While they talk, she discovers he writes for David O. Russell, who's planning to turn it into a movie. She agrees and to help do a scene-by-scene comparison with him before meeting. Meanwhile, Charlie is writing back with Florida, who's greeted by Cece when she gets out the bus. Cece hands over a blank checkbook for the Florida Trust Fund of Charlie wrote. Carol thanks her and calls her by her real name, Ivy Dickens, and as she pays her, she adds that now that they believe that Ivy is Charlie, they will not come for the real Charlie Rhodes. So yeah, this was all plot by Carol. Of course, Carol hired an actress to be hired a struggling actress to pretend to be her daughter, so the Vanderwoodsons wouldn't look for the real Charlie Rhodes. So once Carol walks away, she pulls out Ivy. Yeah, I can finally say her name, Ivy now. Ivy pulls out Georgina's phone number, and it's revealed that Ivy took one of the checkbooks. At the Waldorf, Blair empties the trash. The icon, Dorota, empties the trash can in Serena and Blair's shared bedroom, but Quick Shot reveals a positive pregnancy test laying on top of the trash. So yeah, this was the end. This was the ending of season 4. Russell has been arrested. Raina left the show. Vanessa left the show, and is publishing Dan's book Inside. Charlie has been revealed that she wasn't actually the real Charlie Rhodes. She was hired by Carol to pretend to be her daughter, so she could keep the real Charlie's identity hidden. So yeah, to the rest of the Vanderwoodsons, she believes she's their cousin, but she's not really. She's just a con artist and a struggling actress that was hired to pretend to be their cousin. So where's the real cousin? What? Who's this real Charlie Rhodes that Carol's trying? Who's her real daughter? Why is she trying to hire from the Vanderwoodsons? Why'd she have to hire a fake actress? Good. It was good to see the book's author in a cameo in this episode, just like how Sarah Shepard played a teacher in Pretty Little Liars. So yeah. Vanessa's gone from the show. She and Dan have basically broken off their friendship and are basically now no longer friends. Like literally, like this episode, I was like, why did they leave? Why did they kick Vanessa out? Why did Vanessa leave the show at this point? Like, she had a good storyline going for her. Like literally, she secretly sold Dan's book without him knowing, and now Dan will have to figure that out and decide, what is he gonna do? So yeah. That's we got season 5, which is the current season I was watching before I started this recap series. So yeah, I currently was on episode 19 of season 5 before I started this episode review series. So yeah, when we get to episode 5, episode 18, I'll have to stop there until I watch episodes 19 and 20. And then I'll do reviews for that. But until then, this was season 4. It was really good. I think the episode that I actually didn't like about this season was episode 20, Princesses and the Frog. It was absolutely terrible. It was the first episode of Gossip Girl that I can actually look back and say, wow, that was a badly written episode for how they treat Serena. And I don't like how they just had her and Blair patch things up by Blair saying, like, Serena saying, by apologizing, saying, she just didn't realize Blair's love for Louis. Her whole plan was to break them up because she didn't think Blair was actually in love with Louis. But now Louis and Blair are planning to get married. Chuck basically said that, he actually wants Blair to shine, and she doesn't shine unless she's with Louis. So yeah, season 4, really good. I like this season. I like how they wrapped up Jenny's arc. I like how they kind of wrapped up Jenny's character storyline. Sad that we never got that Jenny spin-off series as we did in the book series. But still, and Vanessa, she had a good storyline. I just wish they could have had her extend her in season 5, and they could have written it better then. They could have written it better then because yeah, Vanessa leaves the Gossip Girl show with her giving Dan's book to a publisher. So, yeah, even though Vanessa and Jenny are mentioned next season, they're not seen ever again. Vanessa does return, I think, in the series finale for a 1-minute cameo. But, yeah, that's it. So, yeah. Good to see the author. Good to reveal that Charlie... It was actually shocking to reveal that Charlie was actually a fraud. And, yeah. But Know You Love Me, XOXO, Gossip Girl. I decided to bring the first book. Know You Love Me, XOXO, Gossip Girl. See you when we start season 5. Yeah. But cool to see the author still.